Today I'm talking about reporting bias in systematic reviews and randomised control trials. Reporting bias can be described as the unfair reporting of information, and in this case the unfair reporting of research from the medical and health industry. This presentation will define and explain these bias to inform, educate and prevent biased research by researchers and publications, and for the general public to be more discerning with the information they use for their own benefit. Publication bias is when the results are affected by the findings of research, or when only published studies are included. Positive results are more likely to be published, and therefore the whole picture has not been made available. To avoid this, published and unpublished studies should be included. The challenge with including unpublished studies is being able to find them. When searching for studies, it is important to not limit the search to a desired outcome and include studies that are currently being run. Also, it is advisable to contact authors of similar studies. Time lag bias is where the results of studies have been released or not released based on the positive or negative nature of results. Studies with significant results are more often released than studies with negative or a null hypothesis. This can also be the early release of positive information from a study, and then the long-term results of that study may be negative or not be released for some time or not at all. Avoiding time lag bias is straightforward. Positive and negative results from all studies should be published in a time-efficient manner. Multiple and duplicate bias is when research is published or not published in more than one study. When a study is published in many journals to increase the readership and impact, each article can be included in meta-analysis, which can increase the effect of the results. In addition, preliminary results can be released and the final results released separately. Multiple duplicate bias can overemphasize the benefits as a result. To avoid duplicate bias, researchers need to ensure studies are not published in duplicate or falsely published as different studies, and linking the results is important to avoid this bias. Location bias means that some studies are easier or harder to find, and some studies are carried out in a particular location depending on the desired outcome. To prevent location bias, it is important for a meta-analysis to include studies from multiple sources, not just well-known sources, and studies should be researching the group representative of the group to be treated and not a group that will only give you positive results. Citation bias can be a tendency to cite positive studies more than negative results and therefore distorting the effect. Also, if you look for positive results only, this can falsely support a claim. For example, researchers may only cite positive studies for a particular study they want funding for, which is an obvious example of citation bias. To avoid this bias, you should ensure that all results are included and cited. Language bias is where studies are only included if they are in a particular language and in most cases English. Non-English studies with favourable results are often published in English, whereas non-English studies with negative results are not. To avoid this, all studies, positive and negative, in any language should be included. There are more studies being published in English, and therefore language bias is not as common as it previously was. Outcome bias is where the outcome reported has been influenced by the results, or when there is an expected outcome which influences the reporting of results within a study. To avoid this bias, researchers need to release the true results and not be influenced by desired outcomes such as financial incentives. To conclude, creating awareness of reporting bias will encourage researchers to report unbiased research and the general public to be more discerning with the research they can trust.